Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We are with our Stalker. We are soloing our Stalker, level 29 now. We have a little bit of a ways, about half a level to get to level 30, and we are on the General Z story arc, and now we have to find more evidence of wrongdoing by the Sky Raiders and by the corrupt politicians that they're working with. Because what's been really happening is the Sky Raiders are sort of um, bribing politicians to get weapons contracts, and then they're stealing weapons and that kind of thing. And let's sell what we don't need. Let's sell what we don't need here. Here we go. And I think we're all set. I have gotten several orange salvages. I am just putting them in the base now. I'm not selling them anymore because we really don't need the influence. We have millions, and what happens is it gets less and less expensive as you make your enhancements permanent because you don't have to keep upgrading them. And eventually, when you're just sitting there with all level 30 and 35 and 40 permanent enhancements, they're individually more expensive to get them and slot them. But then once they're in, you don't have to pay for them again. So over the long run, they pay for themselves dividends. I do want to provide a little bit of an update. I mentioned several non-COH games, some war games that I had heard were interesting and I wanted to try. I tried, and I actually like it, but I played a little bit, just a few scenarios of, what is it, Lock and Load, and I have played a very, very little bit of SGS Pacific D-Day, but uh, the one that I really enjoyed and liked a lot is Panzer Corps 2. I find that to be really fun. So, if anybody's interested in those, I can definitely recommend Panzer Corps 2, but I will say, so Panzer Corps 2 is the least complex of the three, and probably the easiest to learn, but it also doesn't have quite as much detail and realism, if you want to call it that, quite as many variables to think about as the other two. So depending on what your tastes and what your interests are, you might prefer one over the other. A lot of people like Panzer Corps 1 better than Panzer Corps 2. I never played Panzer Corps 1. Panzer Corps 2 came out in like 2020, I think. It's pretty good graphics, and it's a pretty interesting game. So if you're interested in it, keep an eye out. I got it on sale from Steam because they're having their winter sale, which is probably over by the time you're hearing this. But Steam does sales every quarter or so, and I got it for like 15 bucks. Now there are a bunch of expansions. I didn't buy any of the expansions. I'm just playing the base game. But so far I've enjoyed it, so I just wanted a little quick update on that in case anybody is interested. Obviously it doesn't have anything directly to do with City of Heroes, other than the fact that this is a game and so is that. Alright, so we're doing a General Z. We're about halfway to level, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beats. We're a little more than halfway, about 60% of the way to level 30. My guess is that we'll be pretty close to getting to level 30 when we finish the story arc, because the story arc does provide a lot of XP. My guess is we'll get a couple more beads on this story arc, and we'll probably be around 7 or 8 beads into it. We're about to finish the 6th bead, so maybe we'll be just at the end of bead 7, beginning of bead 8 when we finish this arc, and then we're level 29, so what I'll probably do is just run some tip missions and stuff to get to level 30. I don't think we're going to be able to do the Devouring Earth mission, the story arc, because it caps out at level 29 or 30. I think caps out at level 29. So if we do the Devouring Earth, we won't be able to get the +1s. I mean, we could test it and see, but the problem is if I get on the arc, you can abandon missions, but you can't abandon story arcs. And so then we get on an arc and we're stuck, and you've seen this happen with Silver Phoenix, where we're stuck facing -1s and +0s for the entire arc, and that's just, it's a little easy right? We've seen now that this character is fully capable of fighting +2s, and absolutely +1s are no problem, so we definitely don't want to be fighting +0s at this point, right? It's just too easy. Now, at some point, once we have all of our recharges on build up, and we have our damage enhancers in on more of our powers, we will be able to switch to +2. But it's just a little tough now, just because it takes so many blows, and because we're going to miss so much. That combination is just, it just leads to unpleasant gameplay, in my opinion. Okay, so here's a lieutenant. So we're going to punch you a little bit until we can placate you, which I'm going to do right now, and then knock you out. Good deal. All right, I'm going to pause here, guys. I will be right back. All right, sorry about that. We are back. I guess I should prioritize porters here because they're annoying and the Inferno Raiders don't do anything. Right, they give a fire blast to you, but you know, it doesn't bother me too much. We have some defense against fire, almost 30%, which means they're minus 30% to hit me, basically, right? And I'm punching them, so really minus 40. So if his base to hit is like 60% because of the level difference, he's only got a 15-20% chance to hit me, which is not good for him, right? That's why they whiff a lot. Too zoomed in. Are we zoomed in properly? Yeah, it looks good. Okay. I was watching a video today of somebody who's talking about what are the benefits, what's good about City of Heroes. I messed this up, didn't I? Yeah, I tried to click it and I didn't click it fast enough. Like, why play City of Heroes? What's good about it? And he went over some of the stuff that we've talked about on this channel before, about how fun the game is, right? How customizable the characters are, both in terms of powers and abilities, and also in terms of the customization on the screen where you're making up what you look like, right? The visual appearance of the character, the costume, the look. It's really, really flexible and a lot of fun. He also mentioned the sidekicking system, what a great game it is to group with other people, because you can sidekick them up to you, or you can reverse sidekick mentor down to them, and the result of that is that you can play with anybody of any speed who's leveling at any speed. You know, if the person's kind of new, that's okay. You can team up with them. In the last episode, I talked about Starlight Savior, who was a Chaldean that I tried to help a lot. She was like 6 levels below me, I think, and I used to just sidekick her, or I would mentor down to her. Either way, we had a lot of fun playing together, and it didn't matter that she was lower level than I was. I just became the level that I needed to be, or she became the level she needed to be. So when we were in her missions, I was leveled down, and when we were in my missions, she was leveled up. And we were able to play together, and it didn't matter. And that's probably one of the best, strongest, most well thought out features of City of Heroes, is the sidekicking system. And I'm not aware of very many MMOs that ever did anything to even remotely capture that, and nobody who did it as well, as flexibly, and as completely as City of Heroes. And I've said this before, for all the frequency of game companies ripping each other's ideas off when they work, or when they're popular, it's really shocking and sad that nobody ever ripped off the sidekick system from City of Heroes. Like, if that was something to rip off, if you're going to rip off something, that's what to rip off. Also, the user interface. He didn't mention that, but what a great user interface it has. He also mentioned bases, right, and that they're really fun, and the fact that there's so much to do in the game other than just fight villains, right? You have bases, you have, you know, you can do task force and trials, you can do role playing, you can go into Pocket D and join other players. It's really super fun, and you have a lot of options, which, again, not every game gives you so many options of what to do with your character. A lot of them don't have bases. A lot of times when they do have a headquarters, a base, or a house of some sort, it's much more bare bones. I can't remember which game it was that I was playing, and you could get a house in one of the sort of residential areas, right? Obviously. And the houses they were pretty small. And what I didn't like about them is they had anchor points, like in the middle of each wall and each corner and stuff like that. And it's like when you bought furniture, right, you had to put the door here. You couldn't put it here. You couldn't put a dresser here. You had to put it here. Like this part of this wall is only got an anchor point for something hanging on the wall, not a piece of furniture. The anchor point over here has a place for a piece of furniture. So like basically everybody's home ended up looking pretty much the same because we all had the same anchor points to anchor a very small number of furnishings. What I like about City of Heroes is there's so much that you can do with the base editor. There's so much freedom to it. It really makes it a lot of fun, and you can do some very creative things. So this particular player was showcasing their base. It doesn't look anything like my base, right? And that's good because it means that each base is unique. The base that the Daybreak Initiative had was wildly different from any base I've ever seen because they were the leaders were magical. One was like a good vampire essentially, and the other was like a good demon summoner. They were heroes, but they were like it was a magic user. It was like a vampire and a magic user who had been evil and had turned good. That was their story. And I don't remember, because they were 50th level, if they actually started as villains and switched with alignment missions over to hero. I don't remember that. But because they were magical, they created a very arcane-looking base rather than a techie base. And man, they were so good at doing this stuff. I remember the meeting hall looked like this really cool cross between a library and dining room, and at one point they changed the floor of the base so that it looked like, I don't know how they did it, but it looked like we were standing on water and there were sharks and fish swimming underneath. So they did it with certain objects and visual effects, and I'm not exactly sure how they did it. At one point in my own base I tried to see if I could replicate the idea, and I couldn't figure it out. So there's just so much cool stuff you can do with bases, and you really don't see that kind of flexibility in most MMOs, and certainly you didn't see it in MMOs back when City of Heroes was, live, like 2006, 7, that kind of time period. Yeah, you did not see stuff like that in other massively multiplayer online games, or single player games for that matter. I will say, you can enhance it for accuracy, but that Nemesis staff does pretty decent damage. So we need the last file. Again, this is something we could have stalked, right? Just go find the glowies, but man, is it me? Aren't I missing a lot all of a sudden? Look at, I missed like 6 or 7 times just in this spawn alone. For somebody who has nearly a 90% chance to hit, we sure seem to be missing a lot to me. Right? And yet I know the average is of 50. At least as best I can tell. Yeah, see, a lot of times that thing doesn't hit. But when it does good damage. Now, I know there are more guys down there, but let's check out the glowy. Is there a boss? No boss in this mission? Huh. Alright, well. So we're going to do our old 1, 2, 3. Placate. Build up. Assassinate. And that takes care of him. Last bit of files. Last data file. Found a recipe. What do we got? Hide unowned recipes. So what do we got here? Gift of the Ancients. This is a defense set. Okay. Level 30. Rope-a-dope. That is a stun. We don't need that. And we don't need that to confuse. I suspect I'm probably not going to want to keep the Gift of the Ancients, but maybe we could use it. We've got 2 accuracies. Excellent. We've got endurance reduction, healing. Good. And we can actually craft that one. Recharge reduction and resist damage. And we got a run. So we got a bunch of them. And I'm going to just go ahead and craft them as we get them. And then when the time comes, we'll pop them into our slots. And so what I feel like with this character... Shoot, I hit the wrong thing. I want to hit Shadow Maul. With this character, we have so much money now that I'm perfectly happy to just craft enhancements that even if she doesn't use them, we can use them on our next, like our Sentinel or whatever I make up next, right? I'm perfectly fine doing that. Still burning. Okay. Christine? General Z's tips have led us to remarkable conclusions, and I think we need to follow up. Can you head to the Lockhart office and ask around? So now we're going to see. Okay, so Lockhart, I believe what this turns out is Lockhart is a company. Lockhart is the guy who owns a company that does like weapons, creates weapons and stuff. You know, it's a weapons company, kind of like Stark Industries, right? And it turns out that Lockhart's actually running the Sky Raiders. In other words, the Sky Raiders are a secret merc operation run by Lockhart Industries. I think that's true. Like I said, I'm not paying a lot of attention to the story arcs, but that's what I remember from actually when I read them. Oh, and somebody pointed out in one of my older Let's Plays, I don't know if it was, maybe it was this series, I can't remember, but there was one person who's going back watching some of the old ones and they're watching this series, so I can't remember which one they commented on, but they said that in terms of like the Guardian, the Gladiator badges where you get gladiators you can use to fight in the arena, apparently in the Gladiator section where you do the fight, there is an Explorer badge that you can get in that section. So if you're looking for every Explorer badge, there's one in there. I'm probably not going to get that one, but if you're looking for an Explorer badge, there is one in there. Okay, so now we're looking for evidence. And we got some orange cons to beat up. These guys are 336 XP each. Look at another couple misses. Another miss. I mean, guys, it's not just me, right? It seems to happen in batches. Right? There'll be one spawn of guys where we just whiff them half the time, and then another spawn of guys where we hit everything. I hear a glowy, but there's going to be a lot more than just one. There's the bomb. So there's 4 bombs. We gotta zoom in here. There are 4 bombs and 3 clues. Now in character, as a Stalker with the ability to hide and knowing there are bombs in the office, in character, you probably would beeline, you would stalk the mission, right? You would beeline the bombs, try to disarm them before something blows up and people get hurt. But this is City of Heroes, and we know that nobody's going to get hurt. The bombs can't actually go off. Where's the natural way down from here? Well, that's weird. Oh, here it is. I was like, where? There's got to be a stairway down. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get from level to level in here if you worked in the office. Not that these are super realistic office maps, but so yeah, but I definitely echo the thoughts of the other person who I've been watching, that City of Heroes is a great game, and even now in 2026, 22 years after it was launched, and 14 years after it got canceled, 13, a little over 13. So just to repeat, in case you haven't watched a couple previous episodes, I always put the pin where the elevator that I haven't gone down yet is, so I know where to go, and that I haven't been down there yet, or up there. Man, the amount of damage this Scrapper does is so, this Stalker rather, is so sick. And that's it. Boss taken care of. So that's a dead end, okay. But there's also this area, and also a dead end. Okay. So this is just the first level. We still have 3 bombs and 2 clues, so there'll probably be a couple more levels to do. And there is a bomb right there. And a clue. And nobody to see me. Yep, Tyson Lockhart, the majority owner of Lockhart Aerotech, standing near a prototype jetpack with 3 other men. One of them is Colonel Virgil Jure, leader of the Sky Raiders, right? So clearly these guys are working together. And I think Lockhart definitely supplies the Sky Raiders. Okay, this is going to be a pain. Of course I missed him. If I had hit him there, he wouldn't have been able to deploy. But because I missed him, he deployed. Double deflected, 43%. Double miss again. Alright, you. That's your punishment for summoning that guy. And hey, innocent bystander, get out of the way, stop running into us. You're gonna get punched or cut with that knife. Okay, 1 bomb and 1 clue left to go after this. And we're already, what, 7 beads into... Yep, 7 beads into level 29. So what did I say? We'll probably be around bead 8 when we finish the story arc. I suspect that's probably true. Because story arcs are worth a hefty amount of XP. Placate. Assassinate. Gotcha. It is so satisfying to have a guy with nearly a full hit point bar, and you do the assassinate and he just drops. Back me up on this, other stalkers. It is satisfying, is it not? I got similar satisfaction out of crane kicking people to finish them off and watching them go flying. I always loved that with crane kick. And they really like spawning engineers, the Sky Raiders. I remember during live, when we got to the Sky Raiders, I thought they were one of the more challenging groups to fight, and most of my friends were like, "No, no, no! So much worse are the Devouring Earth, because the Devouring Earth have mesmerizing attacks, right? They have like spores that put you to sleep and stuff like that, and a bunch of the players I was playing with were all like blasters and defenders. In those days, there was no mez defense, there was no break free, none of that. So, yeah, they would just get hit and they'd be like choking or sleeping or stunned. And I remember there were a couple of times when we fought large groups of Devouring Earth with those fungi, and the Devouring Earth put almost the whole group to sleep. And like they were all sleeping and choking. And my character is sitting there fighting the Devouring Earth because I had mez defense. I was a scrapper. All right, we'll do one more mission. This is to defeat the raid leader and the lead raider and his boss. His guards. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. All right, let's switch to this and go to Skyway City. This way. So we haven't talked that much about movement powers. I absolutely love super jump. You guys know that. I love bouncing around. Each of the powers, teleport, jumping, flying, and super speed, has its pros and its cons. Super speed is the fastest, but it's very hard to go up and down vertically. And there are places like Boomtown and Skyway City that are really a hassle when you have super speed, unless you have also. And I did this, I think, on a couple of my super speed characters. Go out and buy hover just to get yourself over some of the obstacles, or super jump or something like that. In which case, what are you using super speed for? You can just use super jump or fly, right? Teleport is great because you can go anywhere with it. It's super fast, but it's very labor intensive because you have to keep clicking and clicking and clicking. Super jump is really fast. I mean, it's one of the faster modes, way faster than flying. It's about as fast as teleport, not quite as fast as super speed, but it's great because it's fun to do and it gets you over obstacles and stuff. You can jump over just about anything, so that's really fun. And then there's of course flying, which is the slowest, but also comes with the least effort that you have to do, because you could literally just put yourself on auto run, aim yourself across the zone, and go get coffee, which several of my friends did over the years. Right? I'm gonna just set myself on fly across all the way down to the south side of Independence Port. Just aim yourself, don't hit Terra Volta, right? And oh, these guys saw me, huh? Just aim yourself, don't hit Terra Volta, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. And they would like, I'm gonna go get tea or coffee or go get a snack, and so, I mean, flight does allow you to kind of quote unquote set it and forget it. You can't do that with the other movement powers. Teleport can be the fastest and go around any obstacle, but it also requires constant clicking, which I don't actually like. So my favorite is super jump. And I guess my second favorite would probably be flight, because it's just easy, and also flying characters are pretty normal in superhero stories. Legion of Superheroes, everybody had a flight ring, right? But there's something to be said for the other forms of travel as well. Super speed is easier to use indoors than most of the others, other than teleport. And of course, teleport, that pool comes with the teleport other, which is super useful for pulling. You can't really use the other movement powers to do that. So the reason I'm introducing this idea is to ask you guys in the comments, what's your favorite movement power and why? Is there one you pick a lot, like I always, if I can justify it, pick super jump? Or do you prefer hover and flight? Or do you prefer teleport? And especially the fact that you can teleport other people, you can teleport your friends to the mission. Yeah, that's super useful. And you can teleport enemies to you so that you don't have to accidentally aggro them and stuff. Do you prefer the speed of super speed, and then you get hasten along with it, so they work really well together? What's your preference? What's your fave? I don't have to tell you mine, right? You guys know super jump. Okay, so these are dead ends here. Oh shoot, that's why my endurance is dying. I'm on super jump instead of combat jump. So for those who are new, this is patrol. Those who are relatively new to my playthrough, I do kind of fill in the map when I feel the need to do it. I don't fill it in all the time, but in a map like this, where we have these corridors, I want to make sure it shows on the map that those corridors are dead ends, so that I don't end up going down them looking for aggro or for bombs or whatever, because I know that there aren't any, because I've already been down there. Yeah, these guys just are not letting me one-shot the lieutenants because I have to keep one-shotting the engineers. But that's okay, we can just placate and then assassin strike. Okay, we'll mark that elevator. Normally on this map there will be 3 elevators, the middle one we came up, and then one on either side for 3 total. We'll go down the one on the other side since we've marked the one that we just came from. Love that move. Stalkers are awesome. And those one-shot hits are so... Well, that wasn't really a one-shot, but when you do big damage on a hit like that and take somebody down half his hit points, that's always very satisfying. This is going to be a lot of XP if these guys are all orange. I mean, part of the idea for City of Heroes has always been that by doing your missions, you can level up, right? You don't have to do a bunch of mindless grinding. Look at all that missing. I know the data doesn't show anything, but you can't tell me that that's not autocorrelated. Because this is at least 4 or 5 spawns now, where for the battle of the entire spawn, there have been a lot of misses. And then other spawns where there are hardly any at all. As I say, I would not be surprised at all to learn that the random number seed is set when you enter a mission. And that's why some missions you seem to whiff a lot and other missions you don't. Another engineer. Where are the wergloons coming from? Over there. There's a glowy. 2 clues left, and we need to find the technician. I have to say, if anybody had told me that I would start up another Let's Play and do a Stalker, I would have said, what are you, crazy? I did that already. But the kind of incentive of hearing somebody talk about City of Heroes and describe this class, this archetype, as being hard to solo with, I felt like I really wanted to showcase just how good these guys are at doing solo, lest there be any doubt. So 1 technician and 2 clues we're looking for. I thought I saw a clue. Yep, right here. There's nobody in here? Now there's another level, because we have that one we marked. So we do have to go back there, and my guess is the other clue and or the technician will be up there or down there or whatever. Clue found. Okay, so this dead ends. So now we're going to go up. And we still have to look in these areas too. This is a pretty big lab. Given that I only need 2 more things. Oh boy, and there is... Are these the technicians? I don't know. I don't know. Oh, the radar engineer. I didn't see him. Oh well. Let's use build up against this thing. Got it. That's one way to take care of them. Assassin strike them. It's just because we already had hidden, right? Alright, I'm not going to worry about these guys unless it turns out that we need to defeat them. take this guy out. Hate Raider Engineers, KOS. KOS. So I guess I'm going to take much of this out. But yeah, we don't really need to do this lab, I don't think, unless there's somebody kidnapped in it. And those two guys... I don't know if that's our technician or not. Alright. I think we're going to go to the rest of this level, and then we're going to go to the other level, and if we have to, we'll come back, but those technician guys, those guys are just cowering in the corner, which I don't think they would do if they were NPCs who were going to help you find something or give you something. Okay, no engineers. I'm sure there are some downstairs, but up here there aren't any. Yeah, really with the Stalker, you can finish off two guys in a spawn of minions before and after the attack chain, and then the third guy with the attack chain. It's so quick. Okay, no Raider engineers there. Okay, so we've done everything. Let's try the other elevator, which will hopefully have the last clue and the technician. As I said in previous episodes, I have several times recently had trouble with NPCs not spawning in missions and stuff like that. And I think it may be because of the increased server load around the holidays with lots of people logging in. And that just making the server work harder and maybe leads to some bugs. I don't see any white asterisks here, which is concerning. Okay. There's the last clue. Now we just have to find the technician. Alright. This is where it would be useful to have super speed, but if you ever watch me with super speed, you know that I bump into walls with that. I'll just turn sprint on. Alright, this should be the last room. Jump bot. And there's the technician. Okay. Come on. That took care of him. And now, turn sprint off. We're going to rescue our tech. Of course, Raider Engineer. Where are you guys going? Oh, this stupid thing. Ah, so frustrating. Give me some endurance. Another miss. Ah. Okay. There should be more guys, right? Not letting you pull another one of those. Speaking of players hating to miss, I think I mentioned that Luke Hart is working on his own role-playing game, and it's a D%. You roll. It's a roll under system, so if it's a 75% chance, you got to roll 0, 1 to 75. And he said he did that because usually what happens is, if you're trying to figure out as a human being, right, with your mind, you're trying to figure out what's the chance of doing something, right? Like in Savage Worlds, I know there's a lot of discussion about, okay, what is the percent chance of succeeding when you've got a D6 and a wild die and your target number is 4, and the dice can ace, right? And it's not necessarily trivial to figure out that percentage. You have to do a little bit of math to do that. I'm going to Kings Row to do some selling. But if you give a percentile dice as your mechanic, if you give percentile dice as your mechanic, like in City of Heroes, then I know I have a 75% chance to hit, or a 33% chance to hit, or whatever. You don't have to convert from D20 or something to a percent. But he also said that he made the default. Oh, wait, this is worth selling. He made the default. Oh, I guess it's not worth selling. Let's get it back. He made the default 60% because, again, players hate to miss, right? And so, could have just sold in the base because I'm going to the base. So, yeah, he said that D&D, they try to make it so that your default is about 60% to hit based on average bonuses plus armor class. And he said rather than obfuscating that behind D20 plus 3 to this, armor class of that, he said, yeah, I just make your base chance to hit 60%. And then the modifiers go from there. But the default is 60%. And he said because players don't like to miss. Okay, let's see what we can make. All right, so let's see. We can make a recharge, another endurance. We can make a heal. We can make a recharge, which is what I said before. We cannot make that. We don't need sleep. Okay, so accuracy needs alchemical silver, and we need a stabilized mutant genome. So let's go grab those. think alchemical silver's up here somewhere. Yep, 1, 2. And stabilize mutant genome. There we go. Let's grab 2 of those just in case. Is that the only one we had? I thought we had more than that. Yeah, okay. And we'll come back. This is why I like to have all these guys like in the same place. There's 2 accuracies. And there's an endurance. And now our resist damages, we need rune. I believe I do have a couple of those. Yeah, if I were more organized, I would like alphabetize these, but I'm not organized. I can't be bothered to do that. It's easier. It's just I just check every one. So we got 2 of these, and then we need run. We need another alchemical silver. That was in this one. Last one of those. Those are kind of rare too. Those are like, I don't think they're rare. I think what happens is they get used a lot in the types of things that I create. All right, so we can put these in here. Look at all that, guys. We're going to have a lot to do when we get to level 31. Nice. And then the last little bit is to go to the nurse and sell these recipes we don't need. I guess that one and that one. Okay. And then back here, just to show you guys so you can see. Went the wrong way. Here we go. In this one, we have 45 orange salvage, and we're about to have 46. So we have alien blood sample, chronal skip, complex chemical formula, conspiratorial evidence, diamonds, empowered sigils, all of this stuff. We have 1, 2, maybe 3 of each one. These ones will be needed for making the higher level, better recipes of things, but you don't need them for the generic IOs. These guys, I don't think they ever need oranges. I think they just need whites and yellows. It's the sets that start requiring oranges. So we're well on our way. We have a whole bunch of enhancements in our enhancement table here. There are 34 in here, probably half of them, maybe more. Probably about 20 of them are ones that we can use. And so when we level up, we're going to be replacing a couple accuracies. We're going to be replacing several of the endurance and a bunch of some of the recharge. We're going to be replacing at least 2 of these three resistance and a couple defense. So we're going to end up with about a third, maybe a quarter of the enhancements being generic IOs, and we won't ever have to change them again if we don't want. Now, what I will sometimes do is when I have level 30 plus of everything, right? What's going to happen is at level 31, I'm going to slot in these 30s. By level 33, we're going to be starting to get drops that are level 35 because we're going to be fighting level 35 enemies when they're +2. And then, so we're going to end up with like, say, a quarter of these, maybe a little more, like 30% of them are going to be 30. Another like 30% of them, 35% of them, 40% will be 35, and then the rest will be 40. It'll probably take about that long to get everything in. Once I've done that, if I don't need to do any more and I have a lot of influence, either I will start swapping them out for sets over level 40, or more than likely what I'm going to do is upgrade like the 30s to 45s and 50s because they give you a better bonus, right? This gives you a 34.8% chance, right? But if we look here, the level 45 gives you a 40% buff, right? And the level 35 gives you a 36% buff, right? So it's a little bit better. And the level 40 gives you a 38% buff, right? So it's a couple percent as you go up each one. So it'll definitely be worth changing our accuracies from, like, say 30% to 40% when we're in the 40s, right? But it's not something we have to worry about now. It's perfectly fine to slot in the 30s. I don't do anything below that, but it's perfectly fine to slot in the 30s. I feel like it won't feel any different from having SOs. And then as you start slotting in 40s and 45s, it starts to feel a little bit better than that, right? So we're going to have a mix of 30, 35s, and 40s for the most part, probably with the majority of them being 30s and 35s, and then some 40s. And then as we level up, the higher level powers will have the 40 and 45 and 50s. And then as we get toward the end, I might start replacing the 30s with 45s and 50s if we don't have sets in them, right? Because like some of the powers, there's probably not going to be sets in this, right? So then it's worth replacing the 30s with 45s if you can, right? Anyway, that's where we're going to end it today. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been Soloing the Stalker on City of Heroes.